Discovering you, rewiring the brain, rebuilding confidence, and harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zeimet.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Beverly Zeimet Show, where being that best you has just gotten easier. My guest today calling in from Miami, Florida is, oh boy, here we go, Marife Mendez.
Ooh.
Welcome to the show, my dear.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here with you.
Well,
Beautiful
you know what?
Morning.
You know what? It's beautiful here in Denver. We've been having 60-degree days, which is totally crazy.
Jealous.
Yeah. Oh, it's not that warm down
It is too warm. Actually,
Yeah.
Yesterday we almost had a record high. So it was too warm for the season. It went up like almost 88 degrees.
Oh, wow. It's so
But
strange.
today they were back to our normal days average. It was like 70 something in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, we've had such a mild winter. There's been like hardly any snow at all. I think it snowed like 4 times, and then it was gone in 2 days. So it's can't really complain about having a nasty winter here in Colorado. So,
That's wonderful.
right. So, Marife, what is it that you do down there? I see you have a book up behind you.
Yes. I basically do many things. I am very grateful that I have been given the opportunity to work in many areas of the things that I like. I feel passionate. I own a 7-figure marketing agency in Puerto Rico, and I managed it from a long distance because I actually live in Miami. I've been living in Miami for the past 18 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
I kind of, before the pandemic, I was a frequent flyer. I was traveling every month. Now I have rely much more on technology like everybody else. And that's why, I like laptop CEO because that's basically what I do. And one of the projects that I participated lately is the Women Who Boss Up in Health, Wellness, and Lifestyle book. And, it's a beautiful collaboration of women. We all have the 16 women that participated in the projects. We all own our chapter where we just basically try to inspire other women in different ways that we have show up for life, that we had to boss up.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I share a little bit about my story. As an entrepreneur, I also share about my journey with breast cancer, and it's a beautiful project. I also teach in college. So that's why I say I'm very grateful because I can do a little bit of everything that I like. And pretty much, that's what I've been juggling.
That's right, juggling, right? That's the way life is. But
and, and, and professionally, because I haven't incorporated yet, the family and the parents and the daughter. That's my life.
Life is great. It's such an adventure, and when you have so many different things that you can do, and stay, active, right? Regardless of if there's a lockdown or anything else, and you kind of learn to roll with the punches, and that's kind of what that the Boss Up was all about. It's like, what do
Right.
you do in the time of, right? And
Right.
yeah, it's been an honor interviewing a lot of the gals that have been in that book. And I happen to be one of them, which is really nice. So it's getting to know everybody that's in the book in a different perspective as well.
Right.
And if I'd like to share with the audience too, and then you can tap into this a little bit. The collaboration, coming together as a group. I have been finding over the last, I would say, probably decade, where women especially have really started to come together and joining forces and supporting each other like never before. And it's such a blessing and an inspiration. And when you hear a lot of these stories of where they have come and what they have done to go beyond that, and take charge of their lives, whether it's in a business, personal, relationships, you name it, it's inspiring, right?
Right. We, I feel that as women, we need our tribe. We need that female energy that we can only provide and support our tribe
Right.
to move forward. That's the beautiful thing, right? That we listen to each other, we encourage each other. And I think that that's one of the most important things that women nowadays are understanding. I see that in the past, the way that women lean in, and step forward was by acquiring many of the characteristics of the men, men energy, and women as managers were worse to treating other women than men were, because they had to prove so much. And now we understand that's totally BS. That
Yeah.
we fail for the system, and it obviously doesn't work. And it's about embracing that goddess that we all have inside. For
Exactly.
me, it became obvious that I had to earn that trust in my tribe. And for me, it has been a transformation. I haven't been like this all my life. This is one of the things that I try to explain in the book. This is my transformation, my personal transformation after the experience of breast cancer, where I realized that I needed to put my energy into something different in order to become the best person that I can be. And so the bitch that I was before, I'm sorry, but I
No,
have to say
say
it.
it like it is, because you know what?
I have to say it.
Yeah.
That's gone. Now I'm real. Now I'm about embracing and supporting, and how can I help you? And it's not about coming here today and say, hey, buy my book, here is a link. It's really about just being here, enjoying the moment, sharing with you, with your audience, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it's inspiring, and that's kind of what the audience is looking for is to becoming that best you. That's why I use that theme, being the best you that you can be, because there's always that room for improvement, right? And it begins inside. It begins with the self. And
Right.
So working in that industry, and really beginning to understand that. And it's all about being real. Just be you. Because if you can't be you, who are you going to be? And there's been so many, insecurities and things go on. It's like, oh God, I have to act like this and I have to do that and I have to be this way. Otherwise, people aren't going to like me. I'm not going to be accepted. All that crazy brain chatter that goes on, right? We've all been down that road. But when you start to really stop for a moment and say, hey, this is me, right? Who really are you? And that identity crisis. And that's kind of where my story took me, is I had lost my identity. And that moved me into that realm of becoming an identity revelation specialist, where I help women really get deep into and start to display and reveal who they really are. Because that's what it's all about. If you don't have you, then what do you have? Right? And things are by association. We think we are what we do. No, not so much, right? And that's kind of that impression thing. But it's striving and going forward. And like the book says, boss up, right? And Tam has been such an inspiration, and bringing these women together. She's in her third book now. She's got the BossUP Asian book, and I've had an opportunity to actually have some of them on my show. And it's just, the stories are so mind-blowing and inspiring, and it just wants me to keep on going and going. It's like, oh, what's the next one? What's the next one? It's like being a kid in a candy store, right?
Exactly. And something to add to what you're saying, many times we feel that we don't have a story to share.
Right.
Like, who is going to care about my story? My story is boring. No, each and every one of us has our unique story. And it all depends on how we bring forward, that story. But it starts with that, with
Right.
Getting that courage of sharing that story with others. In my journey, I realized that it was very important to stop pretending to be the person that people were expecting me to be.
Right.
And that's it's so common. We get so focused on trying to become who we think we should be, and not who we really are.
Exactly.
Who we really are. And I had to do something very extreme. I actually walk on fire.
Oh, great.
With a tribe, yes. And when I sign up for the event, I said to myself, I am not going to do it. But I said to myself, I'm not that crazy. I know that people get burned, but I just want to go through the experience and see what is it that these women end up believing that they can do it. But I wasn't going to do it.
Right.
Believe me, I was the fourth in a group of almost like 40 women walking over the fire. And I did it because I felt the energy of the tribe that was part of my own energy. And I realized that I was ready. And I did it. And when I walked through the fire, I really thought that I was burning. Like I said to myself, the minute I stepped in, I said, oh boy, because I felt the temperature.
Sure.
But I said to myself, this is about walking forward, not backwards. So ching, 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 I did it. And when I look at my feet afterwards, they were dark, 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 like obviously like I just walk over fire. But they were not burned. And when you think about that, it's like, I didn't do that myself. It was the power of the tribe.
Exactly.
We all did it together. We were able to raise our energy so high to a point that we match the energy of the fire, and that's why you can walk without getting burned.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you for sharing that, because that is so true, and it's precious to understand that synergism, and I guess one of the biggest issues that I had with this whole pandemic lockdown thing was, wait a minute. The world is all about connection and having synergism together. Thank goodness we've had like the Zooms and things like that. But that connection, that personal one-on-one connection, to be able to be in the same environment, as you said, right? And the support, because everyone at that time becomes one. You unite in that unity of one. And we are all made from the same substance. We all came from the same power source, shall we say, from that the heavens, God, there's a lot of different names that are used, but we are all made in the same likeness and image. So whatever I do affects you. Whatever you do affects me. Your DNA, is going to affect and have an impact closest to you in your genealogy. But it just ripples out, just kind of ripple, right? And that's what creates that synergism of energy. When you really begin to understand vibration and the elements with it, and why it's so important to keep in that elevated energy of love and joy and gratitude, and move out of that. And so working together in a group, sharing stories, it's giving someone else hope, even if you don't think it is. When you share your story, it's not about wallowing in the mess and the poor little me stuff. It's not about that. It's about saying, hey, I can feel your pain. I had this pain, but I didn't let it define me. And this is what I did to keep going and getting out. There is someone out there that will listen to you. There is someone out there that will give you a hand up, not a handout, a hand up, right? And that's what it's all about. And so when I see these collaborations going on, and that's kind of the hot topic right now in these days, is getting your story into a book, whatever kind of book that is. More and more of those things are happening. We've got the show world and the podcasting world, and that is just opening up live. I mean, just look at the social media and video. A few years ago, and it's just been only 2 or 3 years ago, where people are like, no, I ain't getting in the face of that camera. Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
And now look at them. They're becoming more free with that and moving into that element. And again, I think that's part of that whole synergism, right? The more people that do it, the more people that want to do it. And sometimes we have to just step into it and boss up and really step into our power. You mentioned something earlier about getting into that male energy. Well, we are both feminine and masculine. We have two sides, right? And so it's how do we combine those when we begin to understand what masculine energy is and what feminine energy is. Then we can combine it, because masculine energy is a positive force and feminine energy is the negative force. And it's not about negative, positive, good or bad, or right or wrong. It's that you need these charges to make the connection be explosive. So if you look at a light, or even just like the computer we're on, right? There's a negative charge and a positive charge coming in. And the one that has the most energy is actually the negative charge. So the positive force is here creating like the element and the pictures. But when you hit that negative force, wow, now everything comes into view. It gets pushed out there. You look at some of the comments and quotes and things over the years. They say behind every successful man was a strong woman, right? Well,
Mm.
why is that? It's not so much the male female, it's the charges. So when you have a positive thought or a positive outcome that you're seeking for, when you can build it and take that negative charge and put it under it, so your greatest fears will drive you to your greatest successes. But if you wallow in the poor little me, what happens is the negative charge goes on the other end and it drives you into an abyss. Right? So know where you're putting your charges and where your driving force is. And that's understanding vibration and energy, right?
Very interesting. Yes.
Yeah.
I know a little bit about, I understand a little bit about energy as I practice a yoga. I'm a little bit of a yogi myself.
That's
And,
good.
and so my understanding is that we all have we both carry we all carry both energies,
Yes.
feminine and masculine. In the case of let's use myself as an example. As a female, I carry more in female energy than male energy, naturally. But you can play a little bit with that. For example, I know that my personality, my character, I embrace a lot of masculine energy.
Mm-hmm.
And for a given time, I was kind of fighting with that. And I realized that I don't have to fight it, I just have to embrace it.
And
It's
that's powerful because that's so true. You know, that inner conflict, when we feel we're in that conflict, that's a time for us to recognize, hey, Houston, you got a problem. What are you going to do about it, right? You know, and so it's really beginning to recognize what the issues are so that you now have an idea of how to overcome them and surrender to the circumstances of what's going on, which then gives you that power, that driving force, that negative charge begins to turn your direction this way. And that's a key element when you begin to understand that. I love science, so I like to dig back into the science of things, right? Because it's like I've been in the arena for, oh gosh, all my life, not really knowing that that's what it was. But in the 80s, when I got a real understanding of what metaphysics was, and now physics has proven what metaphysics has always known. And so being able to bring those two worlds together and get that greater understanding of how and why it works makes it even more fun, right?
Right. You feel like you can, it's not move the pieces of the game, but
But it is. It really is just that. It is. It's
I know that.
shuffle this over here, shuffle that over there. Let's see. All right, this is kind of a little weak. I better give it some extra power, right? You give it a burst, and yeah,
Right.
when you really begin to understand.
Shake the energy you don't want. Shake it.
But and that's key. I mean, I move a lot. If you haven't noticed when I talk, it's like for me to just have to sit still and not have to. Oh my gosh! I mean, there's no way, right? And it's all about keeping that energy elevated, because when you're elevated and your energy is moving, your body becomes healthier, your mind becomes healthier, right?
Yes.
Your emotions don't rule you as intently as they once did. When you really begin to recognize that, Houston, hey, you know what? Something's running amok here. And if we don't straighten it out, it's going to put us into an abyss. And that's not a good place to be. It's not fun to be there. It's not comfortable. And that's what helps to become that expression. When we talked earlier about sharing your story. Because when you verbalize it, when you express that story, something shifts in the inner working of who you are. Because when you begin to hear the story that's been playing, in autopilot behind the scenes, it's a wake up. You're like, did I just say that? Oh my God. Right? And you begin to see yourself in a different perspective. And
Right.
it really is a wake up call because your thoughts are so different from when you begin to verbalize it.
Yes.
And that's when that personal growth begins to shift. When
Right.
you hear the craziness of the story, and that story is not just yours. It starts early in childhood, from your experiences, and you're putting that information into your database. Well, what happens when you leave and now you're out in the world having this major adventure, meeting other people, and you're hearing different stories, you're having different experiences. Somebody's knocking down about maybe an event that happened to you as a child, and you're thinking, oh, wow, that must have been really bad. I must have been a bad person. You start adding to the story and making it something that's totally out of control, right? And the truth goes. So really, everything that is built around that pain point, shall we say, that beginning upset, 5% of it is yours. The other 95% is somebody else's feelings and thoughts that you took on as your own, because all thought is magnetic. So now we work into, we have the vibration, but we also have the magnetic field. So all thought is magnetic. When we begin to put an emotion to it, because now we're feeling it, it's like, oh, I can't tell my story because people are going to say, oh man, you were really nasty when you were a kid, or you start building these judgments towards
Mm.
yourself, thinking other people are thinking this about you and they don't even know what your experiences were. So when you can finally release these stories, it's empowering. Did you find when you put your story out there and not only just was speaking it, but you actually put it in a book and now it is out there for the world to see? How did that make you feel?
It's something that I wanted to do for a long time. As a matter of fact, I am working on a different project that I want to put together, sharing more about my story.
Uh-huh.
And so for me, it's important because the reason why I get involved in all this is to try to inspire other women in similar circumstances. I had a tough a childhood, and so for me, it's been very important to understand that the experiences that I went through as a child, although looking at them right now from the outside, you may feel like, oh, poor little girl that had to go through all
Right.
these, situations. But in reality, it just made me who I am today. And so I embrace that. But from the moment that you feel these emotions, as you're saying, and we got used to to actually be able to understand that it wasn't your fault.
Right.
The universe has a purpose, and eventually you get to understand that, and that's what makes you powerful. So for me, having the opportunity to share a little bit more about that is priceless.
I agree. I agree. And it's interesting because as a child, when you're going through these different events, and that's all they are, they're just events, right? And the thing is you don't know any different. It's all you know. So it's like, oh, well, everybody goes through this, right? So it's just an event that you go through, and it's not until you get into your adult life and you're out in that outside world, and it's like, wow, it's really different out here. Everybody didn't do what I did. Everybody didn't go through this same crap. It's like, okay, but you allow it to define your strength, but not to define who you are, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah, and so I mean, when you look back, you can say, "Oh man, I wish that shit wouldn't have been in my life." But you know what? Had it not been there, you would not be, as you just said, who you are. And that's finding that true identity, because when you can move through those things, that's when you find the soul essence of who you are, that spirit that's driving you into these experiences and really getting you in touch with the divine and just being. It's just the third dimension, a little avatar here that you're running around in, getting to know everyone else that's out here and doing different adventures. Just embrace them, as you mentioned too. That is key. Embrace the experiences, learn the lesson, detach from the emotion, and get on with life, right?
It's easy.
Yeah. It's simple. It's simple, but it's not always easy. There's a little bit of distinguishing in between those two words, right? But it is only as hard as you make it. Again, that is personal choice. You can make things difficult and challenging, and however you want to perceive it, because it's your perception, and then it's how you respond to your personal perception. And that is unique to each and every one of us.
I agree.
Right? But you know what? You have the power to change it, to rewrite it. Change your story. You don't like the story you're living in, change it. You made that one. Make another one up, right? It don't matter.
Rewrite your story.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So Mia, I didn't say that right. Marife. Okay. Stop and think for a second. Okay. If people want to get a hold of you, if they want to get a hold of your book, where do they need to go to find it, and how do they reach out to you?
Right. So the best way to do so, it's by accessing my website, www.marifemendez.com. So it's Marife, it's Marif as in Frank, E. Mendez with a Z as in zoo at the end. And there you'll find information, freebies that I have, and more stuff.
Oh, we can put that down in the comment box, and people can find you. And
okay, beautiful.
Just remember this beautiful little face, and she's all over the face of social media. So, right?
Yes, that is correct.
So is there any tips you'd like to leave the audience with? Some words of wisdom.
I say that we have to live our life to the fullest. And I like what James Dean once said, dream as if you live forever, but live as if you'll die tomorrow.
Oh, wow. That is so powerful.
Dream as if you live forever, but live as if you'll die tomorrow. And I think that really represents how I show up, to life every day.
Right. When you have an experience like you did, overcoming some major health challenges, you take a different look at life, and you have a different respect for it, because you only go around once, right? This is your opportunity, and it is, because yesterday's gone, tomorrow is not promised. And so if you don't live in the now, if you're not living, you're dying. So I love that little quote from James Dean. I haven't heard that one in a long time. Yeah, so dream as if you live forever, but be sure and live for the now, as if you're going to die in the next moment. Yeah, and that's fulfilling. Wow, thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure, and the conversation's been great. So everybody, comment below. Let us know what you liked about the show, and go out there, support this little lady here. She's out there to serve you in any manner that she can. So reach out and go out there now and go be that best you that you can be. And why is that? Because Marife and I are going to be the best we that we can be. We'll see you all on another show.